Hey, alright. Today's video is the skill chosen one. It's a passive skill that sets everything in place for the person holding it to come out looking like a hero. Everyone surrounding will display incredible strength when he is present. The skill chosen one is a passive skill that sets everything in place for the person holding it to come out looking like a hero. Everyone surrounding will display incredible strength. Naturally, this is from an anime. One I very much love. I even read the manga and I read the light novel, right? Uh, Funny because when it comes to this kind of stuff, I'm able to feel productive because there is a afterwards. What can I do after? What can I do after? Lately, I've been questioning my ability to kind of make decisions. Sorry. Yes. Yes. I'm using the term make decisions. And I don't necessarily I no longer understand the reason, the thought process of making decisions because I have been seeing that decisions are taken, not made. If I'm making a decision, I'm creating something that probably wouldn't fit. But if I'm taking a decision, I'm kind of like responding to an opportunity to take that decision, which is basically like whatever the situation. Ultimately, every situation has hundreds or thousands of decisions to be made. As simple as like decisions that relinquish your responsibility or decisions that make you take responsibility, decisions that make you delegate, decisions that make you inputs, outputs, all that kind of stuff. Well, the reason I say this, I mentioned it right now, is because there's always this conflict, which is an unreasonable conflict between me and the universe. And I say it this way because I do have full trust, but it seems like I'm always tested for my patience. Now, a big part of what I'm doing is kind of like a big part of my approach to things has very much been task oriented and finalizing because I have to finalize the thought process in order for me to be able to like see its existence in the world, see where it can fit and see if it can fit, right? Like the last thing I would want to do is create something that nobody wants to use. Specifically because I'm building something for the sake of changing things, right? Was the See, anytime I'm talking about the subject, I always get this feeling that I'm going to reflect on this moment and be like, ah, remember when you were having this conversation. And it's a surreal kind of like sensation because your mind kind of goes, look at it, look at it. But I am feeling like I'm accomplishing things, but the process in between still doesn't feel like a natural process. Although I take it with a grain of salt when it's happening, it's just most of the time very it comes with a lot of like internal conflict. Weirdly enough, I kind of stick to it and I come out of it and I end up doing what I say I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do. Maybe it's everything else that surrounds it that I kind of like, that I'm not really like including, like playing guitar more often, making these videos more often. Like I have legitimate like notes to read. But so the skill chosen one from that anime, and I've read the short novel that inspired the manga, and the manga I've read it that inspired the anime. It's a passive skill that sets everything in place for the person holding it to come out looking like a hero. And I sincerely trust this is our existence. And the thing about skill is there's an activation, right? Like, for fire to burn, you kind of need heat slash friction and dry wood or something to kind of like for the fire to eat. If you think about it, like you need something the fire accepts as a sacrifice, which is dry wood. And so, like, every skill to be activated kind of requires it's it requires the setting to be in place for its activation. And the skill chosen one is a mental skill. Naturally, I'm talking in the real world because any way you look at it, you are the center of your own universe. You literally see the world. Like the world starts from where you are, from these eyes outwards. I'm exploring. Everything starts with me, and then a relationship is built with. And you as well, basically. Like again, like there's me, myself, and I, right? Like I am the source of this connection, and me is the representation, and myself is the translator, is the emptiness in between that gets cluttered with a whole lot of like unfinished business. So my mind thinks I'm a firm believer, but like when you trust something, it's not hardcore belief. It's not like it's a truth. Like I've experienced it, right? When you experience something, you can't deny it anymore. And it can't be a belief anymore because belief is built on ignorance, on the fact that we don't know. But once you experience something, then you know enough to understand, or at the very least, your knowledge surpassed just knowing becomes more of an understanding because of the experience that you have. And there's that feeling, there's that kind of that feeling is based on a connection, right? It kind of like opens up with you. It allows you to kind of like explore a different dimension of what's going on. That's the truth behind like you opening up is when you're kind of feeling something. And in the anime, basically, it's just like this guy that was given the skill after he reincarnates and the chosen one. And every person he talks to basically becomes an ally. And if somebody is evil, then basically their evil is exposed. Right? And every plan that's made around him succeeds, and every plan that's made against him fails. And it's funny because like you kind of see all these coincidences that we call coincidences falling into place for his success or for others, kind of like yeah, for his success. And that's the kind of like that's something that you have. And when somebody says mentality, I think we're simplifying it because ultimately we have to have the mentality of a successful guy or whatever it is. In truth, that mentality is basically activating the skill, the chosen one. But the difference between like putting wood, dry wood, and giving it a spark so it lights a fire, kind of like throwing gas at like wet wood in order for it to kind of like catch on fire. So what the difference again the difference between like thinking about like your own uh, your own success, I guess, from a mentality's perspective, like have the mentality, like make a mistake, think about it, and all that stuff, is that there's a force behind it that you're creating, which is not sustainable. Or even if it is sustainable, that means like your actual relationship with it is shallow, because the understanding that you're searching for doesn't exist. But when it comes to kind of like considering it the skill, the chosen one, ultimately, like everything is happening and you're just spending time understanding it. You're just allowing yourself to like build on top of it. I think it's supremely funny because both of them are the same thing. Because with the skill, the chosen one, everything is falling into place and you're just kind of like trusting the process and following it. On the other side, everything is kind of like being forced into place and you're kind of like creating the process instead of trusting it. The one heavily relies on your involvement, while the other one is kind of like a gift from life, a gift from the universe. Imagine you're, imagine you have the skill where everyone that's working with you is always on point, faster, smarter, stronger. I see that in the world. I see that around many people. All in all, I think the ability to be able to just like look around us is fundamentally the reason why life is worth it. Look, see, feel, hear, taste around us, everything. All these many experiences, many connections. The only reason why it's valid. And that's the video. Skill, the chosen one. I love you guys.